And welcome to another edition of SA Talk Today. I'm Jay Tope, your host. I'm in for Jackie Hill. Jackie will be back on Monday. We've had two great shows today, and we're going to try to make this three in a row. And so I think with the guests that we have today, we're definitely going to have that happen. I am blessed to have here in the studio the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. You know him, you love him, and you're going to find out a little bit more about him today. And that would be Bill Schoening. Bill, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Jay, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, well, you know, you're a Philly guy, right? And we're going to get into your whole life story and everything as far as how you made it down here, what it takes to be a play-by-play broadcaster, because I've always been so impressed. I just, I can do color commentating, but it takes a special person to do play-by-play broadcasting. Was it something that you wanted to do as a kid?
Well, Jay, I was really lucky. I was 10 years old. You mentioned I grew up in Philadelphia, which is a big, heavy sports town.
It is.
A lot of passion there for sports, and football, basketball, baseball, good college basketball town. Obviously, with the 76ers, when I was a kid, Will Chamberlain was playing for the 76ers. So
you're not that old. You don't remember
I am. Yeah,
no.
That was the 60s. Yep, they won the NBA championship in the 66-67 season. They finally had thrown the Boston Celtics, who, of course, had won all those championships in a row.
Right.
The Sixers were very good, but they couldn't get over that big green hump,
right,
which was the Boston Celtics.
Nobody could at that time.
Nobody could, but they did. In 66, 67, and Will Chamberlain, of course, is the star of the team. So that really kind of got me excited, got me going and thinking about sports a lot. But when I was about 10 years old, I was listening to a Phillies game, and there was a guy named Byram Sam, who ironically enough was a native Texan, and he had been doing the Phillies for years. He was a very rhythmic type, melodic play-by-play guy. And I just remember falling asleep one night listening to him. They were doing a game out on the West Coast, and it was probably 11 o'clock or midnight on the East Coast. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to have little kids fall asleep to me. Thankfully it's happened, But I mean, from the time I was 10, I knew that play-by-play is what I wanted to do. And I'm very, very blessed that I've been able to kind of fashion it into a career.
Now, have you, when you're out and about, do people, when they hear your voice, do they recognize it right away as the man that's the voice of the Spurs?
Sometimes, I think the Spurs' success lends you to get recognized a little bit more. If I was the voice of a team that never made the playoffs, it might not happen. But, especially around here in San Antonio and up in the Austin area, people, if they hear the voice, they might know. And one time I got mistaken for Mike Ditka. I was I was out in Vegas, and this guy came up to me, and I think he had a few drinks in him, and he said, "Coach, can I get your autograph?" I'm like, "Coach, who am I supposed to be?" And he kept on talking about it. I love the Bears, so I've been told before that I look a little like Ditka, so I guess I'm Mike Ditka. So I said, "What's your name?" To Joe. Best wishes, Mike Ditka. And so the next day, that guy woke up with a hangover and a fake autograph of Mike Ditka.
So if you get away with it, go for it.
Why not?
And this has been a big week for the San Antonio Spurs organization. Actually, it's been a big offseason, but history was made this week with the hiring of Becky Hammon for the first full-time female basketball coach in the NBA. That's huge. I mean, it's so huge. Sometimes we complain about not getting any publicity, we're a small media market. I think this year things kind of turned in that. But this has been all over the world.
Yeah, because I think that her basketball IQ is off the chart. She's really a sharp lady, and she knows the game. Obviously, being able to fashion a great career for a person that didn't get drafted into the WNBA, didn't have a lot of scholarship offers out of high school, and for her to be able to reach that level as a player. And then last year she spent some time with us, and I know the coaches really respect her opinion and got input from her. And I think that she's going to be a very, very important part of what they do going forward, because I know that Pop really does respect her basketball IQ. He wouldn't have hired her otherwise. And she's going to fit right in. I really do believe that. I think that she'll be an integral part of what the Spurs do. And it's an awesome hire because, as usual, the Spurs thinking outside the box a little bit. And they also hired Ettore Messina, who's one of the top coaches, maybe the top coach in Europe. So I think that by keeping the coaching staff kind of fresh, that'll bring in some fresh ideas. And Pop is very receptive to some of these new ideas and concepts and and thoughts that these coaches will bring to the table.
Well, and Pop has never, fancied himself as a genius or anything like that. I mean, he obviously is incredible, off the charts basketball IQ, but he's always respected other people's opinions,
Sure.
and you notice that right away. He really only comes into a huddle, and you got courtside view of that huddle, to just say a few things right at the end. They lets the players kind of talk to themselves, and then if he's got a couple of things, sometimes he's even said that, hey, I got nothing, but it just shows you. I mean, Pop doesn't do things for publicity stunts.
Oh, no, not at all. The reason that Becky Hammon is going to be an assistant coach is because she brings something to the table. That basketball IQ, that experience as a player. She knows the Spurs system, obviously, because she's been with the team now for a year. I think she went on 1 or 2 road trips, but she spent time behind the bench. She's listened to the huddles. She's been in some of the practices. So, like I said earlier, I think that she's going to be a real important part of what they do in the future, because I think that they will rely on her, expertise and her basketball IQ.
And he had a young coaching staff this year. He had to bring in some people because, everybody's hiring away his assistant coaches. That happens a lot when you have success, obviously. But it just seemed like this year, he really had a young staff. But I think he welcomed that new input.
Yeah, Ime Udoka's a young up-and-rising coach. I think he coached the Summer League team. He obviously knows the system, having played for Pop on 2 different occasions. Jim Boylan is a guy I think he came in and fit right in. He's a former head coach at the University of Utah and a former NBA assistant. He's been around for a while, and I think that he's the type of guy that also, brought in some enthusiasm coming in for the first time. So the staff's really easy to work with. They're really a bunch of good guys. And 2 of my favorite guys on the staff are the development coaches, Chad Forcier and Chip England. And what a marvelous job they've done in developing some of the younger players like Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. And I enjoy watching them work with those guys, because Kawhi is like a sponge. He really is.
Yes.
His eyes are fixed on the eyes of the coach when Chad is telling him, okay, we're going to try this or try that, or let's do a step back jumper or whatever, and he's out there working on it. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's made such a rapid development, is because of the work that the assistant coaches, the development coaches like Chad and Chip have put in with him, and also the fact that he is a gym rat.
Yes.
They got to chase him out of the facility sometimes. He spends so much time there.
And he's, the thing with the Spurs is you don't have any big heads. You don't have any, everybody's wanting to learn more. And that starts from, the top, I'm sure. Tim isn't satisfied with anything, and when you see somebody that's been in the NBA that long still talking to assistant coaches and everything, and not thinking that he knows everything, that's got to spill down.
It's part of the culture, is that everybody's appreciated, everybody's got their job, and that's not just with the team itself. I think it's through the whole organization. The people that are in a position to hire other folks, they hire them and they let them do their job. And that's what I appreciate. I don't think that in the 13 years I've worked for the team, I've had a lot of emails or phone calls saying, do it this way, do it that way. They just kind of let me go do my job, and I appreciate that. And I think that that's probably true with a lot of the people that work in the organization.
The other thing Becky Hammon's going to have to, get used to, and of course she can talk to Udoka about this, is to grab Pop to save him from getting technical. There's that whole motion.
Yeah, Becky's not that big physically, so I don't know if she'll have that job or not. We had an assistant a few years ago, Don Newman, and he's a former CFL football player, and Don was the best ever at holding Pop back, because he really could hold him back. So I used to kid with Don about that. He was very quick at getting Pop away from the officials so he wouldn't get that second technical and get thrown out of the game.
Yeah. Okay. So you're again from Philly. Went to high school in Philly. Did you go to right out of high school into college?
I had a scholarship to Temple University and in Philly, and I didn't like it very much, quite frankly. It was a situation where there were a lot of people in radio and television in that school, and I was told it was going to be probably my junior or senior year before I could get on the radio, on the campus radio station. And I was eager, I was anxious, I wanted to get on the radio right away.
Right.
So I transferred to a broadcasting school, and after 6 months, I got a job.
Yeah.
So, but they told me right up front, in the broadcasting school, which was really cool. It's no longer there. It's called the American Academy of Broadcasting. But they taught you everything, and it was a full 7 days a week. I guess Sundays was off because we worked on Saturdays as well. But all day long we worked on writing and spinning records and things that you're going to need, skills that you would need if you get a job.
So it was very hands-on.
It was very hands-on, and I feel like I learned a lot in that 6 months, probably more than I would have learned in maybe 3 or 4 years at Temple because I didn't have any hands-on experience there. So anyway, long story short, too late for that, Bill. I realize that, Jay.
But it's an hour show, and that's why
yeah,
it's okay.
That's good. That's okay. I like this.
You can have a long story long.
A wide open format. But I got a job right away. Like within a week of graduation, I got a job at a small market station in Illinois. I had sent 300 resumes around the country, only to small market stations, because I knew that with my limited experience at the time and just having gone through broadcasting school and being 20 years of age, that I wasn't going to start in Dallas or any of the large markets. So I worked my way up, got a small station in Pana, Illinois. They hired me to do news and spin records, and I was hoping to get a chance to do some play-by-play. There was a small junior college close by, so I was able to take a course there, and as a student at that school, while I was still working full-time, I went over there and did some games and got some experience and got a tape. And then shortly after,
and that's so important. You've got to get that tape. You got, because the first thing, whenever you're applying for any type of job in broadcasting, I mean, the first thing they're going to want is send me a tape.
Right.
If you don't have a tape, they're not going to see you.
So exactly. So I was able to do some junior college basketball, and I was able to get a job in West Texas, a little town out in West Texas called La Mesa, and I jumped at the chance to go there. There was no money, but it was radio, play-by-play, football, basketball, baseball, plus I believe I was supposed to spin records from 7 to midnight, and I ended up doing news. They had a shortage of news people at that station, so I did news and then did the play-by-play for the radio station and for the local high school team. And it was 3 years of that. But the great thing about that station is they were very committed to sports. So I got to do a ton of stuff. And it was all, learning on the fly pretty much. But it was 3 years. And by the time I was 23, I was, experienced enough to get my first college play-by-play job. And that was at Sam Houston State in Huntsville, Texas.
Well, tell me a little bit about, because this is what I tell young broadcasters all the time that are going into the business. It's so important to get that experience, and when you're at small towns doing this radio stuff, because of the fact that there's only like 1 or 2 people at the station, you're doing everything, and so you really do, though, learn the business from the ground up, which is so important.
I had to turn the station on in the mornings, I remember, because we were like 6. I think it was 6 a.m. to midnight.
So sunrise.
Yeah. A little bit after midnight is when or a little bit after sundown is when we went down, because we aired the football and basketball games live. But turned the station on and then it did news. Had to stop at the police station to get the police blotter and there was a backing accident, $150 worth of damage. I mean, it's small town, right? Covering the school board and the city council meetings and things like that. But I did all of that just to do the Tuesday night basketball games, the Friday night football games. We did baseball as well.
I've known Sean Elliott since he was a freshman in high school.
Really?
Yeah,
because your background in Tucson, yeah.
And met him. I was actually helping run a Peter Piper Pizza there in Tucson, and he was a freshman at Troy High School.
Wow.
Had a cast on his leg because he played soccer, and he tore up his knee and everything. But he was going to get ready, and he was going to play basketball his freshman year. Invited several, not just me, but several people out to go watch him play. They got just run out of the gym, and he was going to, quit basketball or whatever like that. And his mom, who was just tough as nails because she was a single mom, she was working 3 jobs to support the kids and everything, grabs him, you are not going to quit. I didn't raise a quitter. End of the season you can quit or whatever. But he grew to love the game of basketball because he was a soccer junkie.
Wow.
But grew to love the game of basketball. But that was why he had that knee brace on. But he was so quiet. He was a fairly quiet person. Somewhere in the whole realm of NBA life and everything, and he's always had a very warped sense of humor, which is why him and Tim have their fun.
Yeah.
But he's always had that warped sense of humor. One time when I went when the University of Arizona had blown up big in basketball, he was a big reason why that happened.
He was the first big recruit for Lute Olson.
Yes, yes, because Steve Kerr wasn't a big recruit. He was a walk-on basically, and that's a whole nother story for another time. But Sean. The last thing that I thought Sean would be doing is color commentating in a basketball game, because he was very, quiet. Like I said, a weird sense of humor, but fairly quiet. But he's developed this personality, and I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Like I said, doing TV interviews and stuff, you have to open up, but that's not something that you're just born with. As good as you are, I don't think you would say that you were completely born with your person. You got to kind of
develop it, absolutely, and get your confidence. And Sean's very confident right now, obviously, in his broadcasting ability, and rightfully so. But he's one of the guys that really kind of took me under his wing when I joined the organization, because he had actually gotten hired right at the same time I did. Because remember, he had done some ESPN stuff before he came to the Spurs, and so it was really cool to be able to get to know him on the road and go out to dinner, and we hang on the road sometimes. And he's just a great guy. I mean, what you see is what you get. Sean really is
he
he's
didn't
a real
change. I got a chance. I was covering the Spurs back in the '90s when I was at Magic radio station. So I was the guy that would bring back all the clips that we played during the morning show. And there was, I was really excited because, oh, cool, I get to be with my buddy Sean. Well, that's when he went off to Detroit, and Dennis Rodman came in, which was a whole nother thing.
Don't ever bring that up to Sean.
No.
Sean, that was not a highlight of his career.
It was not, because I was there the night that David Robinson got his quadruple double against the Detroit Pistons, and it was a really ugly experience he had with Detroit, because when Sean was introduced that night, all the screaming and everything for the fans, and after the game, Isaiah Thomas just lit into it. He says, "Hope you enjoyed your fame here," he says, "because that's the last time anybody's going to stand up for you." And how cool was it that 5 years later he hits the Memorial Day miracle in a Spurs uniform. And that all that stuff had to be going inside him.
One of my favorite sports photographs ever. There's a couple. One is Priest Holmes, who's from San Antonio, of course.
Right.
Diving over the pile for a touchdown in the Sun Bowl with the mountains in the background out there in El Paso against the North Carolina Tar Heels, who were coached by Mac Brown. Okay.
How funny is that?
But it's one of those great still shots of him, like just going over the line. It's a great picture. And the picture of Sean Elliott when he makes the Memorial Day miracle, but as he releases the shot, Rasheed Wallace is all over him. And Rasheed is up. He was young in his career and very athletic. And how Sean not only just made the shot, but got the shot over Rasheed.
Yes.
It must have come down with snow on it, the arc of that shot. But if you ever see the still photo there, you can't believe that Rasheed didn't block it. And then you can't believe that he actually made it. And of course, that was the impetus that really kind of carried the Spurs, gave them some momentum in the playoffs, and of course, they went on to win their first championship.
And his toes on the line, not touching the line. I mean, it's almost like I said, people that don't believe in divine intervention, watch that play and keep watching it over and over, and you're just like, how did he do this? And it was an amazing time. So having Sean as part of the team that you guys are all part of with the Spurs organizations, got to be pretty special. So you were at University of Texas, and so how was it that you made the connection with the Spurs?
Well, our games were covered or carried by WOAI, the football games, and the basketball games, I believe, were on the ticket. So the program director at WOAI at the time, Andrew Ashwood, knew of my work.
Right.
And at the time, they were thinking about making a change or whatever, and I was surprised. I had no idea that anything was going on down here. And right before the season opener of '01, we were playing New Mexico State, and I think maybe it was a week before the season started. I got a phone call and said, "Would you be interested?" Sure, and I was flattered and surprised that the change was being made, and it worked out great. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better situation, obviously, and to be a part of, even it's a small part, but to be a part of this outstanding organization. Now, I had no idea that the team was going to be the most consistent team in sports franchise history.
Well, when you joined, they had the one championship, but again, you never know when that's going to happen again.
Right. They had already drafted Manu, but he was still playing over in Italy.
Right.
He would come the following year. They had drafted Tony Parker, and he was coming in as a rookie that year. But he was a 19-year-old kid from France.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody, and the 29th pick in the draft, so I don't think anybody
People were still considering him trade bait at that time.
Who knew what was going to happen? Terry Porter actually was the point guard at the time. But very early in Tony's tenure, I think maybe 5 or 6 games in, Pop said Tony Parker's my starting point guard at the age of 19. So, and that particular year, the Spurs lost to the Lakers in the playoffs. That was part of the Lakers' 3 straight championships.
Was that the one when Devin Brown was playing with the Spurs as well?
I think Devin came later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the end of the 01 season, the Lakers had won their 3 straight. And then, of course, the following year, the Spurs knocked the Lakers off in the Western Conference semifinals, 4-2, and a very dominant performance at Staples Center in Game 6. I think the final of that game was like 110-82. It was really something. It was so quiet at the Staples Center. I think I was the loudest person in the Staples Center, and I'll never forget. Jack Nicholson was sitting about 5 feet from me, and I was real pumped up. I was very excited because the Lakers were just the dynasty back then, and,
right.
and here the Spurs are knocking them off, and obviously getting over that hump. And it was like a big purple hump for the Spurs to get over, and that gave them the impetus for their second championship. But during a break, it was not on the air, I said, that's what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah.
Well, Tim Merriman was our producer at the time, and Tim saved that clip, and they used it in a promo the next day. And I never said that on the air.
Yeah.
So now I've got people coming up and going, that's what I'm talking about right there. I didn't say that on the air. But they used it as a promo.
Oh,
so,
no.
yeah, it was
Mr.
one of those
T.
things. Yeah, Mr. T, exactly. One of those things I didn't say, but I did say that, kind of, to this day, I walk down the tunnel, somebody yell at me like,
wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. I was excited, no question about it.
But it's funny that something off the air becomes, your signature line. It's almost like play it again, Sam, which was never said
actually
in the movie.
Right?
Yeah. It's great.
And did Jimmy Cagney ever say "you dirty rat"? I don't know if he ever did or not.
I don't know. But now I'm gonna have to watch that movie just to find out. We're here again with Bill Schoening, voice of the Spurs, and we're very happy to have him here. It's SA Talk today. I'm Jay Tope, of course, your host. Jackie Hill will be in on Monday. And quick reminder that coming up before you know it, probably in 6-7 weeks, we're going to have the debut of the SASports.com live show, which will feature all sorts of high school athletes, coaches, and experts in the high school sporting field. Looking forward to that beginning, like I said, before you know it, and keep it right here on this station. And we'll tell you a little bit more about it as we get closer to launch date for that. So, Bill, so going into that series with New Jersey, which was their second championship, but it was your first chance to be. I mean, here you go. You're talking about coming from Philly. You're doing these West Texas football games. You're doing, you're talking about your career growing and everything. Then you get a chance to do an NBA Finals.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's got to be. I mean, at that time, you talk about off the air. You're not nervous because you've been doing this obviously but were the nerves going for an NBA Finals?
A little bit, I think. I think it was more excitement and anxiety, anxious to get started, and to see what it was really all about. And I'll never forget I couldn't believe the number of dancers and rappers and actors and personalities and all the stuff, all the brouhaha around the finals.
Right.
I remember the first game, I believe Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis's daughter, was singing the national anthem, and I always get to the arena very early, and she was rehearsing, and there were cameras and lights and props and all this stuff out on the floor. And I'm thinking, wow, this is just not a basketball game anymore. This is like an event.
Right.
And so that was the first thing I thought of with all that stuff going on. And then finally, we got to do the basketball game, which
Right.
was great, But
It does take a while to get there because it just seems like, again, well, anybody that's ever had a chance to be there, I was there for Game 2 of the finals in '99, the Alamo Dome, and there was that extra time between during timeouts because of the TV commercials and everything like that, and that's got to be kind of tough on your end as well.
Yeah, and then the media, getting access. I can always grab a player, but just it's not the same as a Tuesday night in Milwaukee.
Right.
Grabbing Manu for a quick interview. You can't do that because there's 800 other media people there.
Right.
So,
they've got to go through that whole spiel at the end of the game where they're on the podium and all that stuff. So
Right.
it's tough to get somebody right away.
Yeah, and also on post game, especially on the road, to get on the charter and take off and go back home. It's not like a regular game where okay, post game's done and let's go. Like you said, with the podium, with the extra media, with all the different commitments that the NBA makes the teams go through to make sure that all the different things are taken care of, it does take a while to get going, for sure.
It's so that championship that they won against the Nets. Were you thinking at the time, well, this is nice, wonder if it'll ever happen again, and then, bam, 05, bam, 07, I mean, things start getting, winning championships on a regular basis, how does that cut into, I'm sure you don't mind because you absolutely love what you do, but how does that cut into vacation time?
Oh, I don't worry about vacation time. That's the last thing I think about. I tell Jerry, my wife, every year, do not schedule anything before the last week of June.
Right.
Because, our mindset is they're going to go that way. They're going to go that far. And they can every year. So,
exactly.
So don't schedule anything on June 16th because I may be in Cleveland or wherever. 07 it was Cleveland.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But so that's the mindset. The vacation doesn't start until the season's over. So that's not that big a deal. But the consistency that they've had. They've won 50 games every year I've been there, and that's just amazing. They even won 50 games in the lockout year when they only played 66.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's what makes that a record. I believe will not ever. I don't think there's an NBA team that can do that just because there's so much moving around. And here you've got a team that just won the championship, and we've got almost 99% of that same team in place as we speak.
And that's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to seeing those guys when they come back, and I think that their incentive now is to try to repeat. Because you mentioned 03, 05, 07. There's the gap, and then of course you got the 7-year gap between the 07 and the 14 titles.
Right. Which should have been a 6-year gap.
Well, yeah, but those demons have been exercised as far as I'm
definitely.
concerned,
Definitely.
I don't like to talk about that. Nobody does, but it happened, and I think that provided some incentive for this season. The way they played, they were so focused. And I've been around this team 13 years, but I don't think I've ever seen the sense of dedication and purpose and focus that I saw, especially in the finals. I mean, they were fine throughout the playoffs. Of course, Dallas gave them a good time, a tough time in the first round. But since Game 7 against Dallas, when they absolutely blew them out, I think they were up by 27 at one point in the first half. And then the way they took care of Portland, and of course Oklahoma City was a tough hump to get over as well. But that was a significant win in Game 6 in Oklahoma City, because people forget they were down by 7 at the half, and Tony Parker was out.
Right.
Tony could not come back for the second half. And the Spurs had lost a bunch of games, 9 in a row, I believe, in Oklahoma City before that win. So for them to come back without Tony, down by 7 to start the third quarter, and then to win that game in overtime against Serge Ibaka, who, of course, the Thunder had played so well since he came back after Game 2. That was a huge win, and I think that gave them some momentum. And of course, they already had the incentive against Miami.
Oh yeah.
But that was it was a magical year, really, in a lot of different ways.
I think it was, and being a Spurs fan as long as I have, I mean, I don't think I mean, 99 was special because it was the first, but I really think, I mean, this was just, it was really magical, not just for the Spurs, for the fans, and I think the Spurs obviously having that drought, I think you don't take it for granted after you go 7 years without
Absolutely.
championship.
No, I think that it was sweeter, and I think even the players said that afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
it's really sweet when you come that close and you can taste it and you don't get it, and then you're fueled by that for the following year, and then you get the same team in the finals, a team that had won 2 titles in a row, and to win the way they did. They shot 54% in the series. That's unheard of, you know.
It's insane.
The way they shared the ball, the way they played team ball, and it's so funny because I travel a lot, and I was up on the East Coast for a couple of weeks in July, and everybody I talked to said they were pulling for the Spurs, and that's not just because they know me; it's because they like good basketball. And I mentioned earlier, growing up in Philadelphia, a very passionate sports city, and now Brett Brown, by the way, is the head coach of the 76ers.
Right.
So I think that the people that were kind of maybe not sure who to pull for, maybe Brett had them pulling for the because that guy, he cut his teeth in San Antonio, so we'll pull for the Spurs. But it was more than that. I think that the people there that appreciate good basketball really wanted to see the team that was playing true ball, true team ball win, and they did. So.
When I was covering the Spurs back in 94, 95, 96, there were some of the players, that were your favorite. You always knew going in an interview, like David Robinson, you knew, one, he would say whatever was on his mind, but he was just such a fun interview, super personality. To this day, I just absolutely love David speak, whether it's at a church or whatever. Sean, by that time had gotten very comfortable in front of the mic. Then there were players at that time that you really didn't want, you had to get a quote from, but you knew that it was going to be rough. Obviously when Dennis Rodman was here, that was a very interesting time.
I saw Dennis Rodman play in college. Not a lot of people can say that. I was doing Sam Houston State, and we were in a tournament at the D.L. Ligon Coliseum in Wichita Falls, Texas.
Wow!
On the campus of Midwestern State University. And in that tournament, Sam Houston played Southeastern Oklahoma. The Savages. Not kidding, the Savages. And they had Savages across the front of their uniform. And a 6'8" skinny kid from Dallas South Oak Cliff played in that game. And when I talked to the opposing play-by-play guy, I said, well, who in your team should we look out for? He said, well, this kid Rodman, he's a real skinny kid, but he said he rebounds like nobody I've ever seen. And sure enough, in that game, I went back and looked at my book. He had 8 points and 22 rebounds.
Wow.
And I don't remember much about that game. I'm sure Sam Houston State won. But I do remember this kid getting 22 rebounds, and that was Dennis Rodman. No tattoos, no nose ring, and skinny. I mean, he gained weight and became – he was always a good rebounder, but, I mean, he became a very good rebounder, obviously, in the NBA and a good defender. But I just remember him. From that game. So anyway, just as an aside, but when you're doing small college, you just never know when you're going to see somebody that might eventually be in the majors or be in the NBA.
There's a kid that's playing high school ball at Brennan right now, Geordan Murphy, that I think is going to be huge. I can't remember who he signed with, but he's committed to a D1 school. Sometimes you can just tell there's something special about this kid, and that's happened. We've had a couple, Devin Brown being one, that have made the transition to the NBA. A kid from Wagner just got drafted by the NBA as well. So I mean, it happens. So that's kind of neat in that aspect, that you get to see sometimes people at the college level before then. Now, when did you stop? Were you able to? When you joined the Spurs organization, did you have to completely stop doing your broadcast for University of Texas?
Well, we were so close to the football season when I got the job that everybody kind of agreed that, okay, he can do the final year of Longhorn football. And I really thought that the Longhorns were going to win the national championship that year.
Right.
And I really did believe that. And they came very close. They had lost to Colorado in the Big 12 championship game. They fell behind a bunch in that game, and they came back and almost won. Had they won that game, they would have played for the national championship. Instead, they went out to the Holiday Bowl and played the University of Washington and won that game. And my career was during the period of time Major Applewhite was the quarterback at the University of Texas. So I got to call all of Major's games, and he was a great guy to cover. And in a post-game interview, I said, well, that was your final game, Major. It was my final game. Now I go back to the Spurs. And he said, I can see the headline tomorrow in the paper. Applewhite. No, he said Schoening and Applewhite ride off into the sunset together. I said, nah, it'll probably be Applewhite and Schoening, I think. And Schoening might not even make that headline. But Major was a great guy. Of course, he's coaching now. And so that was fun. But that first year, I did miss a couple of Spurs games because I was still doing Longhorn football.
Right. And that had to have been tough just that first year back and forth.
Yeah, it was fun, though. It was a challenge. I'll never forget, we were doing a game at the University of Missouri in football, and they had two linebackers named Duncan and Robinson. And when I was doing my depth chart, I said, this means more to me now than it did like 6 months ago before I had this job.
Right.
So I'm going to make sure Duncan and Robinson get in on every play.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun, and I've been very, very lucky. I have not missed a game that I was scheduled to work, but I haven't missed a game in the last 12 years because obviously I am not doing the Longhorns anymore. But Manu Ginobili, I've not missed a game that he's played.
Wow.
So every game he's played in the NBA, I haven't gone to the Argentina games, but every game he's played in the NBA, I've been able to watch. So I feel very, very blessed to see a Hall of Famer every game he's played.
Now, you went down to Mexico for the broadcast of the game that didn't happen last year.
That is correct. That was a fiasco, yeah.
And that had to have been weird because everybody was kind of a little scared because just of the situation.
It was strange. It was really a weird deal all the way around. And I got there early. I was on the first bus, and it took it forever to get there because of traffic. And we saw the smoke while the guys were warming up. And this is the pregame warm-up. I mean, when guys are just kind of loosening up. And I was talking to Terry Porter, who's an assistant now with Minnesota, or at least he was at the time. And I'm looking up and what's going on up there? I'm not sure. So shortly thereafter, they cleared the arena, and we all kind of had to wait outside in the loading dock area to see what was going on.
Wow.
We had no clue.
It was back to like 1975.
You're
out on the loading dock with the team.
Yeah, loading dock. Right? So it took forever to get back. So it was a trip. And then we have, of course, had to make up the game in Minnesota because it was Minnesota's home game. So we played that game, I think, on April 8th later in the season. So, yeah, it was a strange trip.
So you do the preseason games.
Yes.
So that's one of the things I want to talk about. The preseason schedule has just been released. This has got to be kind of cool. You must be looking forward to this more than any preseason.
Ich spreche ein klein bisschen Deutsch. Ich habe Deutsch für 3 Jahre auf meiner Oberschule.
Wow.
I had 3 years in high school. So I'm looking forward to going to Berlin. We're playing in Berlin first game. But I understand that everybody in Germany speaks English anyway. So it's probably, I'm sure their English is better than my German. So,
right.
But then we go to Istanbul. So,
and have you ever been to Turkey?
No.
No. So that'll be an experience for everybody.
I know Hito Turkoglu. But other than that, I know Dirk Nowitzki. Other than that, but I'm looking forward to that. And of course, the Spurs have had other international trips. You mentioned Mexico City, but in preseason, in 2003 we went to Paris,
right?
And then in 2007 we went to Lyon and Paris. Playing some international teams. Brent Barry, who was one of my favorite Spurs ever because of his sense of humor. I remember he came over and did post-game interview with me in Paris, and he decided that he was going to use as many French words or English words with French origin as he could in the interview.
Right.
So he said, "Well, that's apropos." And then it was the entire interview. He was just trying to find French words.
Right.
That's Brent. So I kind of miss him. He's doing a good job, by the way, on NBA TV.
He is. He is. He's always great to listen to, and most of those guys are pretty fun. Now, I never want to put you on the spot as far as, who your favorite guy is because you're interviewing these guys all the time. But, we talked about how special this was. One of the special things was because of all the mishaps and injuries that was happening. There was a different star every single night. Was it kind of neat? I mean, for you to get to know these players even better than you did because of the fact that everybody was a star on any given night.
Well, it's interesting because Pop was kind of ahead of the curve on this too in terms of minutes played. And if you have a good bench, why not use them? And you've got Tim Duncan, who was 37, and if you don't have to play him 35 or 40 minutes, keep him at 27, 28 minutes. And therefore, the bench becomes more important. And, of course, the Spurs led the league in bench scoring this year. And guys like Marco Bellinelli and, of course, Manu. But Patty Mills became one of my favorite guys on the team because he's such a fun guy to be around, very energetic, very supportive of his teammates. And I'm very happy for him because, he got a chance now to sign a little bit bigger contract. And I'm sorry about his shoulder injury because he's going to miss a chunk of the year recovering from the shoulder injury.
But doesn't that show you what a class organization the Spurs are? Because there might have been other teams that might have said, you know what, he's got this shoulder injury. Even though we want him back, maybe we don't want him back for as much. But it just seems like the Spurs take care of their players, and I absolutely love that about R.C. Buford and the organization. So the fact that they did that, I think everybody was just like, that is, again, another one of those. It's so cool to be a Spurs fan moment.
Well, it is, and you see guys like George Gervin and the late Mike Mitchell and. I can go on and on. Mike Gale, Paul Griffin, all these former Spurs who stayed in San Antonio after their career. They felt loved here. They felt like they fit into the community. And it wouldn't be surprising to me to see some of the current crop stay here. When they
absolutely. I can't see Tim moving to Miami or Boston or anything. This is home for him.
Yeah, unless he goes back to St. Croix and hangs out on the islands.
Yeah.
I don't know. He might do that.
That could be. Now,
quick Patty story. He likes to play guitar, and we're coming from the rodeo road trip a couple of years ago. I think our last game was in Cleveland, and it was right around Valentine's Day.
Okay.
And so Patty's got his guitar out, and I guess he talked the flight attendant to let him have the mic. So. Yeah, as we're getting ready to land, actually we landed and we're taxiing up. Patty says, "Okay, I'm going to play this song for everybody." I'm like, "Oh goodness gracious!" So he gets the guitar out and he plays Cupid. Cupid, pull back your bow.
Oh wow!
But he forgot the words. So I think the way it went was Cupid, pull back your bow. I forgot all the words.
Yeah.
So it was one of those deals. But it just shows you how good a guy he is.
I've got a CD here, A Second Chance, Bill Schoening and Friends, which I'm very excited about. This tell the background of this, because I had asked you off the air whether your music history as far as songwriting and all that was something that you did when you were a kid, and apparently it's a little more recent than that.
Yeah, when I moved to Austin, I've always been a big music fan, but I got a guitar, took some lessons. I'm still not a great guitar player, but I can play some chords and force out some melodies. I can write melodies in my head,
right?
And I just like doing that. I've probably written 24 songs or so. And in the off season, I like to go in the studio and work on some of the songs that I've written. And I'm real blessed that I've got a lot of great musician friends around me.
Well, if you're in Austin,
yeah, you don't have to look very far.
No,
and that includes my church. I belong to a church that's got. Our worship leader, his name is Nick Whitworth, and Nick produced this particular record and helped me on some of the songs.
Very cool.
That's Nick there, and but he used to play with Gary P. Nunn. And,
okay.
Yeah, and he was Gary's keyboard player, and then I think Nick decided one time, why am I in Shreveport, Louisiana, staying at a Motel 6? I could be doing something else with my music. So anyway, I sing when I can. I don't have an opportunity to sing as much as I used to with the band. It's a praise and worship band. It's not a choir. It's more of a kind of a, I don't know, Christian rock kind of a thing, I guess you could say.
Nice.
A little touch of gospel. I was able to bring in some really talented musicians to work with me on that. And all the money that we raised off that particular CD went to Nothing But Nets, which is an organization that helps out people in Africa who are fighting malaria. They're trying to prevent malaria, actually.
So the nets, we're referring to those nets that go over their beds and stuff like that.
Yes, exactly. They keep the mosquitoes out. The mosquitoes spread the malaria. So we were able to send, I think, about 500 nets over there.
That is
awesome.
We're
going to do another fundraiser later in the year, I think, because I've got all these new songs that I've written. So we may do maybe a concert here and a concert in Austin to try to sell. Not necessarily sell the CDs, but raise more money for Nothing But Nets. So we're hoping to do that. I'll keep you posted on that.
And you can go online to nothingbutnets.net. Now, is this an organization that you started, or?
Oh, no. This is an organization that has been around for a long time. In fact, Ruth Riley, who played for the Silver Stars back then, now the Stars, of course, she was actively involved in that. And Rick Riley, the columnist for Sports Illustrated, I found out about Nothing But Nets through a column that he had written in Sports Illustrated. So it's a worthwhile organization, and that they work on saving lives over there. Yeah.
It says send a net, save a life, nothingbutnets.net, all proceeds from this. And again, it's called A Second Chance, 4 songs on there.
Yeah, it's an EP, it's 4 songs, and I did another one called Life in the Minors years earlier, and that's more of a secular type CD. And then I've got kind of a mixed bag of new songs that I've written. One song I wrote is called Adios Auf Wiedersehen, and that was about the Spurs rodeo road trip in 2013. So if you're really interested, you can just kind of Google my name and put Adios or Adios Auf Wiedersehen in there, and it's got a lot of Spurs footage. And it was a lot of fun. A guy named Steven Doster, who's a really good guitarist and producer in Austin, worked on that. He's a big Spurs fan, too. He worked on that with me, and he's really a talented guy. So that's what I try to do is, surround myself with talented musicians so I don't embarrass myself when I go do these little musical projects.
If people want to get a hold of this CD, how do they do it?
It's funny. Right now, they're all in my closet.
So all you have to do is go to Bill Schoening's home, in near Austin, and ask for his closet.
Yeah, just knock on the door. There'll probably be information coming out later because I'm going to try to market the whole kit and caboodle together, so I just need to work on that. But if you go to nothingbutnets.net, you can make a contribution. We'll try to get you a CD later on.
Fantastic, and I appreciate you bringing this in today.
No problem.
Before we leave, of course, one of the things I noticed on your hand, you can't help but notice the Spurs championship ring.
Yeah, this is 07.
Right, because obviously they wait until the first home game before we actually do the rings.
Correct.
And isn't this a little interesting, because I noticed this year on the schedule, apparently we're not starting out at home, and that's kind of unusual.
Well, I haven't seen the official schedule yet, to be honest with you. So the preseason schedule's out.
Right. Okay.
But the regular season schedule's not yet been released. I know there's some speculation that we're going to open up on the road. I hope that we open up at home.
Yeah.
Because I think that the champion should always.
Yeah, because there's been the speculation we might be opening up, of all places, in Cleveland, and I really, for everybody's sake, I really don't think that's going to be a good. The one thing that we know that we can guarantee is we won't be playing Miami in the finals next year.
Well, I think that it's going to be tough for Miami now.
Yeah, it really is. It's not going to be tough for
Indiana, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the two best teams in the East, and a very, very sad injury to Paul
my
George.
goodness.
I hated to see that. And, of course, they also lost Lance Stevenson to free agency, so I think it might be tough for Indiana. And now I guess you got to say that Cleveland's the team to beat in the East, because now they're finalizing their deal for Kevin Love.
Yeah, if they get Kevin Love, we might be seeing LeBron, but not Miami in the finals, because that's all of a sudden they're legit. LeBron couldn't carry that team, but when you got somebody like Kevin Love,
and Kyrie Irving, of course, is becoming point guard. But again, in the West, there's very, very tough. I always say it's a gauntlet. So, you're going to have a lot of good teams in the West again this year, the Thunder, the Clippers, all the way down the line. And it won't be easy to get back there, but and we'll see what happens. But I'm looking forward to the season already.
I imagine you're chomping at the bit, because you think about it. It's the 7th of August today, so we're only a couple months away from the first couple preseason games.
It's 2 months and 1 day away from playing Berlin.
That's nice.
Alba Berlin in the preseason. So, and that's always fun too, to do these international games early in the season, whether it's in San Antonio or on the road. We played a team from Italy, I believe, last year, a Greek team a couple of years ago. It's a challenge for me, because I have to learn how to say.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite name a couple of years ago, we played Panathinaikos. Lakos Mavrakafalidis was one of the guys that I had to kind of prepare for that. So we'll see.
Trust me, whenever I'm having to do PA for any team from Falls City or Polk or some of those Czech towns, it is a very. So I know exactly where you're coming from on that. Hey, Bill Schoening has been our guest today. We sure appreciate you coming in. Thanks so much for being here.
Nice
and thanks to RC for letting you come on and tell him hi for me. Okay. And tell him if he ever needs a PA announcer for the Spurs. I'm definitely.
You're available.
I am available. Okay. Thanks so much, folks. Tomorrow on SA Talk Today, we're going to have Tony Morano, the great photographer for SASports.com, and also he's a photographer for Kansas 5 TV. Takes pictures at the Spurs games. He's just a great human being, and he says a lot of good things things about Bill as well. And also Crystal Vargas from Crystal Vargas Marketing is going to be our guest, and another guest from Go Play Girls, a great organization that's getting the youth of San Antonio, the female, young girls from San Antonio, active through exercise and all sorts of stuff. They've done things with the Silver Stars, or now the Stars. I still can't stop calling them the Silver Stars. But anyway, she'll be a guest as well. And again, I want to thank Albert Hill and, of course, Jackie Hill, the host, for having me as a guest host this week. Looking forward to tomorrow. Again, thanks to Bill Schoening. And we'll be on tomorrow morning, same time, 11 o'clock. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.